Hello, it's Ryan from 2minutetennis.net, and in this video, I'm going to help you analyze your own two-handed backhand technique at home so you can play much better tennis. All right, let's get right to it. First, get this app, Coach's Eye. It is a couple dollars. If you're under 18, make sure you ask your parents' permission first. But it's just, I think it's like $5 or $6, and I've had it for 10 years. It's actually the app that I use to draw on the screen and do a side-by-side comparison of my subscribers versus the pros that I've been making recently. So pick up the app because it allows you to analyze in slow motion, draw on the screen, check out angles. It's a really cool app. So definitely check out the app, and it's going to make it much easier to analyze your technique. So first, we want to go over the checkpoints. There are 6 two-handed backhand checkpoints. Let's go over them. The first is the ready position. Second is the unit turn. Third, drop. Fourth checkpoint is the contact. Then extension is number 5, and the finish is number 6. Let's go over them all. The ready position is number 1. Checkpoint number 1, ready position. Most players are not ready in their ready. Oh, by the way, I'm using the Topspin Pro. I am an affiliate. You got to get one of these. It's in the description below. You can check out my affiliate link. So the ready position. Most players I watch, they're not ready. You know, they'll kind of be like this, bent over, but get your elbows out. Get the racket up. Get your feet wide, knees bent, split stepping as your opponent hits. The proper timing on the split step is actually be in the air at the exact moment your opponent strikes the ball. So when I do this, when I'm in the air as if I'm jump roping and I'm in the air to let the rope go under my feet, I am in the air as the opponent's hitting the ball. That synchronizes when my feet hit the ground and my brain recognizing where they hit the ball to happen together, and then I'm much quicker to react to that shot. So don't land as your opponent hits, be in the air as the opponent hits, and you'll react much faster and move much faster on the court. So I'm in my ready position. Checkpoint number 2. Now this is where we are going to change our grip. You're going to change your grip from your bottom hand being on your forehand grip to your bottom hand being on the two-handed backhand grip. That's the continental grip, right? So the base knuckle of your index finger and the heel pad are on panel 2, not the very top, but the slanted 45-degree angle panel. And I will link in the description below a video to all the grips, so you can, if you're not sure what the continental grip is, you'll know by watching another one of my videos that I made previously. So I'm in my ready position. Checkpoint number 2 is the unit turn. So the unit turn, my racket's up. I'm going to turn by changing my grip. I change my bottom hand, and I actually assist by turning the racket as well with my top hand. I don't change my top hand, I just help turn the racket to help change the grip, much like you're grinding pepper with both hands, right? It's the same thing. I'm going to only change my bottom hand, but my top hand assists. And I'm going to turn my body so my opponent can see the back of my front shoulder and my racket is on edge. So my racket's traveling 180 degrees. The reason it's called on edge is the edge of the racket is pointing to my opponent. So I'm in the ready position in checkpoint 1, and now I turn to checkpoint 2. You'll notice my back elbow is up here. This is a big problem for a lot of players. They will turn on their backhand and their elbow is down. When your elbow's down and the racket face is open, it throws everything off, and then the swing becomes actually quite predictable when it comes to the swing that they use, but what isn't predictable is where the ball goes. So the reason we want the elbows out in the ready position is because we want to be ready for checkpoint number 2. Checkpoint number 1 is elbows out. Well, checkpoint 2, we want this elbow out as well because it helps keep the racket face vertical. Look at Djokovic. When he turns, his racket is perfectly vertical. You could take a coin and put it on the edge of the racket. So the easiest way to make sure that the racket stays straight up and down when you take it back is to keep this back elbow up. Some pros have it slightly down, some pros have it up. I can tell you from my experience, amateur, recreational players, having that elbow up really helps their racket stay on edge in the back. Here you're going to be moving around. Now it's time to swing. So I'm going to, let me move this a little bit, stay more in the middle of the camera. When I want to hit the ball, I have to get my racket down to checkpoint number 3. Checkpoint number 3 is getting the racket below contact, but I need to make sure that I'm dropping my body to help assist getting lower so I can also use the legs to snap back up and transfer the energy into my arms and racket. But I also have to close the racket face. Closing the racket face means pointing my strings down. When your strings are pointing down in the back, that's what allows your strings to face forward at contact. I see this all the time. And I know in the comments I'll hear somebody say, oh, Agassi didn't really close his racket face much on his backhand. I get it. I'm not 1/100th the athlete that Andre Agassi is, so I can't hit my backhand on edge the way he can. So amateur players, we have to close the racket face to assist this. It's just that simple, right? So there is a really simple concept. When your strings are pointing down in checkpoint number 3, then the contact leads to your racket facing forward. If your racket is straight up and down in the back, what tends to happen for amateurs is their strings point open at contact. And that's why the ball shoots long. Now, what then happens is players are athletic and they figure it out. They're like, oh, my racket's open. So they try to turn the racket to contact. Well, body motion tends to stay in motion. And once it turns, it keeps turning and it just goes like this. So if they turn it too early, the ball goes in the net. If they don't turn it early enough, the ball goes long. If you turn it at the exact right time, the ball goes in and you wonder, why can't I do that every time? Because you can't, because it's not reliable. Instead of getting to the ball and trying to turn the racket to get it to square, close the racket face. That naturally gives you the square contact without having to do anything. So when we come up with our legs, racket closed, that's going to be giving us topspin. See, at contact, we want to be going from below the ball to above the ball. You want the ball, and you'll watch this, with the Topspin Pro, you can see and feel spin. You want the ball rotating. That's how a ball should be traveling over the net. So we go from low to high, contact as strings are facing forward, but my racket's traveling up as I hit the ball, up this shield that's on the Topspin Pro. Checkpoint number 5, after we brush and I'm rotating my body, you can see my back foot turning up on the toe. The rotation is what brings the racket to contact. I'm then going to swing up. My hands are going to go higher than my head. Look at Novak Djokovic hit a backhand. When Novak hits most of his backhands, his hands go higher than his head. He doesn't finish down here with this elbow jammed, which is typically what you see when players are on edge. When players are on edge, they get to the ball and their racket's open, then they turn the racket, but the problem is then the racket's over here and the elbow's jammed. Watch Novak. Not only do his hands go higher than his head, but look at this angle. This is called the left side of the letter V. The left side of the letter V. When you swing up as a right-handed player, and lefties reverse this, the racket should stay to the left of your hands because that keeps this angle intact. The angle that I had here is the same as the angle I had here between my arm and racket, which is the same angle as here, my arm and racket. It's all the same angle. That produces incredible control because you're not casting or snapping your wrists or rolling the racket as you hit. You're just going from low to high, brushing, and the angle stays intact, making you super consistent hitting the ball over the net. I've made a few videos, especially on Instagram, showing the angle where the racket goes up but then stays to the left of the hands. And what an incredible improvement that'll make for you. It's something that Djokovic does and it's something we should be doing, all the time in our backhand. And by the way, yes, you can rip a cross-court passing shot by still finishing like that. So you're going to go up and then you're going to finish with your elbows high, armpits exposed, and you can see my hands are still higher than my head. I'll do it from the front. The reason I talk about the elbows so much and the armpits is because it's something easy to see on video. And I talk about these movements on the serve and on the forehand, backhand. Notice my armpits are exposed. I always tell people, when you're done on the two-handed backhand, I should see your armpits because your elbows should be higher than your shoulders. So let's go over these checkpoints again. Checkpoint number 1. The ready position, elbows out, knees bent, split stepping as the opponent hits. I'm in my forehand grip, sorry. I was demonstrating the backhand grip. Forehand grip. I split step as my opponent hits. I see the ball come to my backhand. I then change my grip and I turn. I now turn and my body is slightly more than sideways to the court because they can see my front shoulder and the racket is moved back 180 degrees. Here's 0, here is 180. Checkpoint number 3, drop your racket and close the racket face below the ball. Checkpoint 4, rotate your body, keep your head still, and we're trying to go from below the ball to contact to above the ball without moving the wrist position. That's what keeps the left side of the letter V, that I explained with Novak Djokovic. And then once you extend up, you can let the racket relax. Don't bend your elbows as you hit. Lift your shoulders as you hit, and then bend the elbows in order to get into the finish. Your hands will be higher than eye level, and your opponent can see your armpits. Look, you got to start analyzing footage of your technique. If you truly want to improve your two-handed backhand, you have to be proactive and look at your technique on video to know what to look for and what to change. If you start recording yourself and analyzing your two-handed backhand technique in your driveway with the right information, there's no doubt you're going to gain confidence, win more matches, and play much better tennis. This is Ryan Reedy from 2minutetennis.net. You got this.